Okay, so we can get started. So the topic today is obstacles. And I'm going to, first of all, if you enjoy obstacles, please throw this emoji on. So if you actually enjoy going through obstacles, throw that on. Okay, I'm going to convince you otherwise through this talk. Obstacles, the first point is actually obstacles are horrible. Okay, and this is what I'm going to try and convince you. So when we look at the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 1, there's an obstacle in front of Arjuna. And what does Arjuna go through? Let us take a look at that. Let's explore some of the emotions that he goes through. So chapter 1, text 28, Arjuna says, Drishtvaimam swajanam Krishna yuyutsum samupashtitam siddhanti mama gatrani mukhamscha parishusyati. Right? So the translation of that is that my dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. Then he goes on to say, Vepatuscha sharire me roma harshascha jayate gandivam sramsate hastat tvakcheva paridayate. My whole body is trembling, my hair is standing on end, and my bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. So those are, just keep a track of these, right? So there's 6. And then he goes on, and then he further, just continues on this trend. And he says, Nancha shoknomi avashtatum brahmativa chame manaha nimittani cha pashyami viparitani keshava. I'm unable to stand here any longer. I'm forgetting myself. My mind is reeling. I only see causes of misfortune, right? So tell me, if you take all of these 10 symptoms into consideration, we can see Arjuna is actually having a panic attack. He's physically, mentally, and emotionally breaking down because of an obstacle. So you want to tell me that you enjoy going through these negative emotions. If we look at that, if we truly consider what the obstacle requires of us, is that all of these things, my hair standing on end, my burning up, my mouth is drying up. That is literally, he's having a panic attack while looking at the obstacle that stands in front of him. So I don't know about you guys, but like, that does not sound very like, oh, I'm going to enjoy that. It is not great. So when you take that and then that's not even the end of it. Let's consider some other aspects. When we have gone through obstacles in the past and we have failed, of course, the good feeling comes if we have overcome the obstacle. But when we are undergoing through the obstacle, there are feelings of shame, there are feelings of guilt, there's the feeling of failure. So really, obstacles are horrible for our mental and emotional health because they make us experience all these negative emotions, right? So now you add another factor to it, where if you do it this is being recorded. I'll just say it, and then if I get in trouble for it, I get in trouble for it. But then you add the context of an institution or organization like ISKCON, and now you have to undergo these obstacles in the context of an organization or an institution. Now, this particular organization or institution, I mean, it's Prabhupada's, grace, but at the same time, we have to understand the reality of it in the sense that if we disclose our obstacles to other people around us, chances are that they might actually use that to propel themselves higher and to push you lower. So that further gets us to experience all these negative emotions, such as guilt and shame, right? So all of these things this is what an obstacle does to us, right? Yes, it might go, you might have, you might be able to navigate around other things, but let's really consider the deepest, darkest obstacles that we've had to encounter. They're not very pleasant. So how can we say that obstacles are actually good for us when they make us experience such emotions that are rooted in the mode of ignorance and in the mode of passion? Mode of passion, if you're lucky, most likely mode of ignorance, that tear us down, that affect our self-esteem and our ability to move forward. So how can we say that obstacles are good for us when we are undergoing that? So have I convinced you that obstacles are horrible as you're experiencing them? Yes? Okay. Oh, Shruti is saying no. Okay. So imagine an obstacle that you haven't been able to beat yet. Don't look at the feeling you get after the obstacles, which we really do, but go and understand. To tell someone that they're going through something, to say, dude, don't worry, you'll be fine. That works really well. I'm being sarcastic. It doesn't. Okay. People, like, when you're facing a mountain you can't climb, that you have been beaten down hundreds and hundreds of times, that's the feeling I want you to imagine. That at that moment, you're so physically torn down. And if you haven't experienced this yet, then great. I'm really glad that you haven't, but it will, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it will come to a point where you hit that wall and you won't be able to push through. So that is what I'm trying to get at, is that obstacles really hit you. And once even after you go through this obstacle, you might have some lingering experiences or some newfound insecurities that weren't present before, that now you have developed because of the result of going through this obstacle. And I can give examples, but I think, and I can be very raw and real, but I think we can all imagine the kind of issues I'm speaking about, personal issues that I'm speaking about. So that is the nature of an obstacle, a real obstacle. I'm not talking about an obstacle like, getting an interview and then finding a job. That is still an obstacle, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm talking about an obstacle that stems from your consciousness, that stems from your psyche, to get over something like that. Okay? So a lot of people will say, and this is actually, it leads to avoidance behavior. It leads to people shying away from things, or anytime things get difficult. We know in personality types, I can speak to this. I've seen individuals, as soon as they're encountered with something, they either shut down or they just try to change the circumstances so they don't have to face that obstacle. All of these are very unhealthy ways of dealing with emotional and mental stress, right? In speaking of mental stress, like if that's an obstacle, people try to use distractions to go through the obstacle, but the obstacle at the end of the day still remains. Okay. So that is what so the first point is obstacles are horrible, right? And that is the first point I want to open up with. The second point is I'm actually going to now present a counter argument to counteract that. So now I've told you guys, obstacles are horrible. They wear you down. They revert us and everything. And now you guys are all thinking, wow, yeah, that's right. But now I want to present a second argument or counter argument to say, actually, despite all these negative things, obstacles are very necessary, and they serve a very important function in our life. And this is the second point that I want to bring up. So let's look at the of an obstacle. Can anyone write in the chat or maybe unmute yourself and speak? What is the meaning of an obstacle? Anyone? Okay. So when I looked at the definition, Something that puts you out of your comfort zone. Okay. So when I looked at the definition of an obstacle, so thank you, Malvika, for that. It's actually, obstacles are, if you look at the definition, it's literally something that blocks one's way or prevents or hinders progress. Okay. So an obstacle is something that comes in between you and your attempt to achieve a goal or for you to progress, right? So if we take that definition apart, obstacles are literally they're factors that manifest anytime you're trying to achieve a goal. That means if you're trying to achieve something, only then will an obstacle manifest. So the very presence of the obstacle means that you're trying to achieve something that you would have otherwise not achieved or not gone for it. Okay. Example is, let's say you're trying to get a degree. So you get into the university you want, and now your first obstacle is like a test in an exam, right? Now, that exam wouldn't have really come about or wouldn't have manifested if you hadn't made the choice to actually aspire to get a degree, right? Like if you were just sitting in one place and, taking life as it goes, you wouldn't have had the stress of an exam. So the obstacles themselves only manifest when you're trying to achieve something that is beyond your purview, that is beyond what you would have achieved otherwise. It's like, if I sit in one place, if I sit in my house, then there's no issue. There's, all the comforts are here. But as soon as I decide that, no, I need to, I need to go to the temple, then immediately there's like, okay, I have to walk down the stairs. I have to get into a subway. I have to get off, then I have to walk. So all these apparent obstacles manifest, but those obstacles only manifested the moment I decided to do something to go and get something done. So if we think about that obstacles will only manifest when we try to achieve something that is beyond our purview. That we can relate this to this point, that obstacles themselves are actually a sign of auspiciousness, meaning the obstacle has only come there because you're trying to get something done. So because an obstacle has come, that means you're on your way to get something done, to get something accomplished. You get that point? So, and if we go back to those verses in the Bhagavad Gita, we'll see that Arjuna, when he was fighting with Indra, he didn't have this feeling of anxiety, of panic, of depression or whatever. When he fought with the same individuals, Bhishma, Drona, Duryodhana, at Maharaj Virat's palace, when he defended Maharaj Virat's palace against the army, no issues there. But it was only when he's tried to reclaim his kingdom that these things start manifesting. That means that the moment he tried to go and get something that was beyond, his purview, only then the obstacles manifested. There's another story from the Ramayana. Hanuman is standing on the Mahindra mountain in South India, and he's about to leap to Lanka across the Indian Ocean. And as he leaps, he gets Menak mountain that comes up. He gets the obstacle of the Surasha demon, and he gets the obstacle of the Simhika demon. Now, these demons didn't actually come up when he was standing at the shore of South India. It was only when he made that leap to get to Lanka that these obstacles manifested. So the obstacles only come into our life when we're trying to achieve something that is beyond us. So actually, in that way, if an obstacle comes in your life, you should know first that, wow, I must be on the right way, or I must be on the way to achieve something beyond me. That is why this thing is coming up. Okay. So I'll take a break. So that's the second point. First point was obstacles are horrible, or obstacles manifest all these negative feelings. Second point is that obstacles are actually, despite these negative feelings, they're actually signs of auspiciousness, in the sense that we're going to go and try to get something beyond our control. But the third point that and you might be thinking that's all good, but is it worth it? Like all this guilt and shame and depression and feelings of failure, and like just thinking to yourself, what if I don't get it? Is that even worth it at the end? Is it worth like all these negative feelings? Why do these negative feelings come out? If an obstacle is truly a sign of auspiciousness, then why do these feelings come in the beginning? Shouldn't auspiciousness be like, I feel good about it, or I feel empowered? Why do I feel the other way? Why do these obstacles make me feel something else, right? All these negative emotions. And the reason for that is, it's not the obstacle that makes us feel these negative emotions. It's the perception of the obstacle that makes us feel these negative emotions. Okay? Arjuna, in the beginning, he sees the army, he sees his relatives, he sees all of these things, and that's what spurs these negative emotions. But at the end, towards the end of the Gita, he's ready to fight, he's empowered, he feels ready to go after it, but nothing has changed. The armies are as they are. He, Arjuna, really is the way he is. His charioteer, Krishna, is still Krishna. His chariot is the same. He does not require any new weapons, and yet he feels empowered. The same stimulus, but different sort of reaction. And the reason is that what changed between chapter 1 and chapter 18 is his perception. So we have to understand that when we feel down or let down, or we feel, guilt or whatever we feel when we're going through an obstacle, we should understand that it's not the obstacle that is making me feel this. It is my perception of the obstacle that is making me feel this. Think about it. So many people get stressed when they have an interview they have to do, when they have an exam they have to write, or when they have all these, X, Y, Z things that are going on. But if we start to see exams in a different way, I guarantee you will actually welcome these obstacles. Bear with me for a second. Think about this. In the beginning of the semester, everyone is at the top of the class, right? Everyone is number one because everyone has a grade of 0%. There's no assignments, nothing, right? So everyone is on the same platform. Now an exam comes. The exam then determines who are the top achievers and who will be the bottom achievers, right? If we start to see an exam that this is an opportunity for me to distinguish myself through my hard work, through my persistence, through my initiative from the rest of the lot, then that actually that inspires us, that encourages us, that you almost want to be like, yes, this is my opportunity to show what I'm made of, right? Versus seeing that, oh, this is a source of stress, this is a source of fatigue, it's like, okay, bring on the obstacle. I'm going to show everyone through this obstacle what I'm made of, right? So that is a flip in the perception, right? And that is what I want to get at, is that it's really like the third point is that despite these negative feelings is like, I just mentioned this point that obstacles are a manifestation of auspiciousness. So, and then if at the same time we see these obstacles as bringing out these negative feelings, so then we say, how can something that's auspicious bring out these negative feelings? And it's really, that is the illusion. Illusion means that we see things not as they are, but as, with a different sort of perspective. So instead of seeing things that are auspicious, we start to see these same things as something that is negative. But when we change your perception and we start to see these obstacles as opportunities for us to propel us towards our goal, to propel us towards greatness, to propel us towards distinction, then we actually start to welcome these obstacles and we get inspired by them, right? Other in spirituality, definitely, right? There are 9 stages, not 9 processes. So there are 9 processes, but I'm talking about the 9 stages of devotional service, right? There's one stage called Anartha Nivritti. Anartha Nivritti literally means cleansing of the heart, right? Anartha, which means like all the undesirables, the unwanted qualities, and Nivritti means like churning or cleansing of that, right? So anartha nivritti happens when all the unwanted desires of the heart are cleansed. So during this process, a lot of the a lot of the conditionings, a lot of the, you can say, the, how do you say, the vices that we keep within us, things like greed, envy, lust, anger, they start to come out, right? Now, they will naturally come out, and a devotee, a sadhak, may say, you know, what's the point of this? I do not, this is over, it becomes overpowering for me, because there are issues that these are issues, how do I deal with something internal like this? But if the sadhak sees that this opportunity is, this is an opportunity for me to actually transcend these lower qualities and actually become, actually transform my heart into something that'll be very attractive to Krishna, then we'll welcome these instances. We'll welcome moments where we are tested in this way, so that we can move towards, becoming more attractive for Krishna. Now, the other point I want to bring is that, okay, so the first point was obstacles do bring out negative feelings within our hearts. Second point was, despite this, obstacles are actually signs of auspiciousness. And the reason why we perceive obstacles, or we associate obstacles with these negative feelings, is not because of obstacles themselves, but because of our perception of the obstacles. But that being said, at the end of the day, if an obstacle that we cannot come over still manifests, we are still going to feel these negative emotions. Yes, we are not Paramhansas, we are not, these evolved beings where every obstacle that comes will be like, yeah, bring it on, right? We're still going to go through some internal struggles where, because of our past conditionings, because of our insecurities, because of the way we see the world, is going to impact us in a negative way. So how do we, now that you know this, that obstacles are actually opportunities for growth, signs of auspiciousness, if we just, you can say, if we just, devaluate our feelings, those negative emotions that come, and just say, you know what, that's fine. This is a sign of auspiciousness. Yeah, it's fine if I feel like crap. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. You're actually lying to yourself. You're actually doing it in a very artificial way. You're not addressing and acknowledging your emotions. Bhakti is all about addressing and acknowledging your emotions in relation to Krishna. But before we even get there, first we need to learn how to acknowledge and recognize our emotions and validate them. So how do we go from feeling like absolute crap when these obstacles come, to start to making that jump, to start to see these obstacles as something that inspires us towards our goal? How do we genuinely make that jump, right? The first thing, as I said, is just being honest with your emotions, being honest with the feelings within your heart at the time when these obstacles come. But the second thing I find is, and I'll show you how, and I'll show examples of how this was manifested, is that we need to have humility. Now, a lot of you are going to be lost at this point. You'll be like, humility is such an overused word in our society, in our movement. What do you mean by that? And, you'll just walk away. But humility in this context, I'll just stick with me here. So humility in this context means recognizing that I do not know everything, that I am struggling with something, but I need help. That is what, just asking for help, just recognizing you don't know everything, you don't have all the solutions, so that you need to ask someone to get over your obstacle, that itself is being humble. And Prabhupada says, in order for you to actually develop genuine humility, you first need to practice genuine honesty. So first be honest with your emotions. Understand that, you know what, yes, this obstacle has come into my life and I want to see it as an opportunity for me to grow. But you know what, I just can't. I see this as something that is shutting me down physically, emotionally, and mentally, and I don't want to deal with it. But that is how I feel right now, but I want to see it as an opportunity to grow. So how do I go from here and how do I make that jump? And that is where humility comes in, because now you have to go out of your way and ask for help. Ask for help from three sources: sadhu, guru, shastra. Sadhu means someone that you trust, another devotee, someone else who is a little bit further along in their devotional practice, or even a peer who you can trust and you can, who genuinely cares for you, so that you can express to them your genuine emotions, and then they can help you see the lighter, how they can help you see how you're gonna make that leap. The second is guru. Guru, again, is that individual who has made all, see, the reason for the importance of guru is that they have already overcome these obstacles and done it in a healthy way. So they can actually coach you based on their personal experiences on how to overcome those obstacles. But again, that's the thing, is that you have to approach them with humility. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get that solid advice, right? And Shastra are like examples of everyone else who's gone through this. They have documented what was the obstacle, how did they get through it, what were they feeling, and how did they get through it, how did they grow from it? And they have documented all of that, so then we just have to go and read it and just apply it and go from there, right? So when we combine all of these three things, then we can actually make that jump from seeing obstacles as a source of very negative and unwanted emotions to seeing obstacles as an opportunities of growth. Okay, so that is there. And I'll give you the example, going back to our example with Arjuna. Arjuna felt like, we were talking, his mouth was drying up, limbs were shivering, all this other like manifestations of a panic attack. And what did he do in that moment? He disclosed his emotions to Krishna, and then he asked Krishna for help. That is that practical application of humility. We often think of humility as looking at things like, we read the Vaishnava bhajans and we're like, oh, I'm so fallen. I'm the most useless. I heard this, I'm the most useless servant. I was like, dude, you can't even be a good servant, because a servant is useful. So if you're a useless servant, that literally means that you're not humble, because if you were actually a servant, you'd be useful, not useless. So like, I don't know if you can edit that part out, Mali, in the recording, because I don't know if I rubbed people in the wrong way. But I'm just, anyways, that was just, but, and that is like, I almost think that is like a transcendental level of humility, because just as you have transcendental love, you have transcendental love that the gopis have for Krishna. We cannot replicate that in this world. Similarly, our acharyas have a transcendental level of humility that we cannot just replicate given our conditionings. Only someone who is at a very, Paramhansa stage can be able to genuinely feel those emotions. So one practical way to actually demonstrate humility at our stage is looking, like understanding our limitations, being honest with ourselves regarding our limitations, and then asking others for help, others who we consider, have our best interest at heart, asking them for help, and then becoming determined to follow those instructions, to becoming determined to following that advice. So those were some of the things that I had to share. Another concept of humility, sorry, one more thing I wanted to add about humility is that humility is such an important factor to have. And if you haven't developed a genuine, thorough understanding of humility, you can actually get misled. But it is such a vital quality for a sadhaka to have. You guys know what mangoes are, right? So a mango in mango season is, imagine, I remember one time in Calgary, it was in the summer and the mangoes came, and the entire kitchen area, everything had this amazing aroma of mangoes. Just walking through, you could get that, it was so wonderful just, to smell that aroma. And I can't even describe to you how tasty and sweet and juicy these mangoes were. They were fantastic. It was honestly like these mangoes had descended from Golok Vrindavan. But hey, and you're talking about, you may say that, oh, this guy's too much into sense gratification, but the mangoes were offered to Krishna. So I was actually, practicing devotional service because I was attracted to Krishna's prasadam. So, so I was, but then so before eating a mango, what do? You have to peel off, and then you can get access to all that goodness that is contained within the mango. What happens if the mango doesn't have a peel and you leave it out in the open? It gets rotten and it starts to dry out. And then what you're left with is like, just the seed, the hard seed that, you can't eat that. So humility, the analogy is given that humility is like that mango peel. And what does that mango peel do? It holds together all the qualities of the mango in one place. The aroma, the taste, it's so like its juiciness, I guess, right? It all holds it together. But as soon as that peel is taken out, then the mango loses its value, right? So humility is like that. All our good qualities, whether it be our communication skills, whether just material qualities as well, whether it be like, our ability to delegate, manage, or spiritual qualities of like, or more subtle qualities like determination and, our righteousness, integrity, all of these qualities are held together by humility. So to the degree we can inoculate humility within us, to that degree we can develop these qualities and hold them together so that we can use them in the service of Krishna and the devotees. So I would just like to conclude here. So point one was that obstacles actually bring out very negative emotions within us. The emotions that Arjuna went through were like, his mouth was drying up, he was feeling very anxious, he had lost all will to fight, he was very perplexed. And for us, when we consider the times that, the society and everything we're living in, just obstacles themselves can bring about things like shame, things like feelings of failure, feelings of abandonment. Because if I disclose to someone that I'm going through this obstacle and they see me as inferior and themselves as superior because they didn't have to go through that obstacle, then the entire society starts to do this as like a group starts to do this as society, then the one person who disclosed their obstacle starts to get isolated because everyone pushes them down and pushes themselves up based on this one obstacle. But what we fail to understand is that if we, with all our baggage of, past activities that were not very conducive to Krishna consciousness, to spirituality, can consider ourselves in some way, shape, or form to be a devotee of the Lord, then why can't somebody else who's going through something else also consider themselves, a devotee of the Lord? So anyways, I hope you got that. I actually got from this book. I have to give reference, the Screwtape Letters. I'll tell you more about that book during the Q&A. But that was the first point, is that they manifest all these negative emotions in us. The second point was that, however, despite these negative emotions, obstacles are actually the sign of auspiciousness, because obstacles only manifest when we are trying to aspire for a goal. The goal Arjuna was trying to aspire for was the winning of the Kurukshetra war, and establishing, a righteous reign over the kingdom. But once he got on the battlefield and right as he's ready to fight, that's when all of these things started to happen. Before that, they were all okay. So obstacles only manifest when we're trying to aspire for a goal. So because they only manifest when we're trying to aspire for a goal,
Obstacles themselves are a sign of auspiciousness that we have started to strive for a goal that is beyond our purview. And the negative emotions are not associated. The third point was the negative emotions are not associated with the obstacle themselves, but our perception of the obstacle. If because of how we perceive the obstacles, that's why all these negative things come in. But if we start to see these obstacles as opportunities for growth, then we would tie these obstacles with these negative emotions. The fourth point was, despite knowing all of this, we're still going to encounter an obstacle where we feel like crap. So how do we make that jump? We make that jump through humility. We make that jump through saying that, okay, if this is what I'm experiencing, you know, how do I go from that to seeing obstacles as opportunities for growth? We do that by taking a humble position and asking for guidance and becoming determined to follow the advice of our well-wishers from whom we're asking guidance from.